Hello everyone and welcome. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming full moon in the sign of Virgo on the 7th of March 2023, taking place at around 16 degrees and 40 minutes of the sign of Virgo. Now, this full moon is a bit more important for matters which might not directly have to do with the full moon, in the sense that any full moon marks a moment when something becomes that much more clear to us, especially emotionally and on the soul level. So it can always mark a moment of truth, of realization, of us seeing things clearly. And Virgo has so much to do with understanding, integrating knowledge and understanding into, our the organic parts of our being. But at the same time, full moons can represent a culmination, an ending, a termination. Something has reached its peak. So it is this that is more important, highlighted by the fact that both Pluto and Saturn are energetic at the moment of this full moon. So when these two planets are energetic, many things from the smallest to the more larger and complex seem very fated in our lives. Some have to do with the past, and this is where even the longer term past, the more distant past, because we have the Sun in Pisces, Mercury in Pisces, and Mercury in Pisces always evokes that period when people, situations, energies, information, communication from the past resurfaces. Even if this is not a Mercury retrograde, Pisces in itself is the lived, the stored lived experience. So basically, the past within ourselves. And Saturn is energetic in the sign before, and Saturn is not just energetic, but it is at 29 degrees and 59 minutes of this sign. So we can already consider that it's it's almost in Pisces. So this activates all of the Piscean energy that much more. The ruler of Pisces, Neptune, is in this sign as well, emphasizing all of this. And this is where whatever this full moon might bring is gonna feel that much more intense, that much more relevant, both for the immediate situation, but also for the, you know, uh, future situation in a much more distant view. And one of the aspects that this full moon holds is a T-square. Not a very tight square, of course, but still an operational T-square to Mars in the sign of Gemini. Now, this is an energy which can disrupt quite a lot, because if Pisces represents that unconscious energy and the sun illuminating it, we're that much more in tune with our dream, with our psyche, with our unconscious, with the inner world, simply said. So, projecting its light on the moon and Virgo, we are understanding it, understanding it, processing it, making sense of it. And of course, the inner world is not always susceptible to down to earth logic, Virgo. And this is exactly the opposition, because in real life, we still need to make certain sense of it. And this is where the T-square with Mars comes into play, because Mars is in Gemini, another mutable, intellectual, very rational sign, where Mars is also the planet of action. So this may represent that our feeling is very, very clear, crystal clear within us, Sun in Pisces, and we are seeking for ways to live, experience, execute, find ways to manifest ultimately the sun in Virgo of whatever our dream is, of whatever our inner truth is. But the square to Mars, this is where difficulties come into play, because we need to, you know, sacrifice for ourselves, but also for others. Gemini, everything that is dual. There is us, but we might have partners, connections, people who depend on us, so Gemini is the other. There might be paperwork, there might be logistic issues to solve, there might be communication, there might be all the small details that do get in the way. And even though they get in the way, they cannot be ignored because they need solution. And this is where this full moon in the sign of Virgo might be a little bit anxious because of this T square to Mars, because it does bring all the inconveniences, it does bring those parts of the truth, of the exactly whatever is being revealed to us or whatever we are understanding, that the nitty gritty, the small details, certain dates, certain times, etc., etc., well, they cannot really be bypassed. They also need solution. And with Mars in Gemini, some things just don't depend on us. For example, timing, other people's availability, the input of, as I said, a partner, child, a person who you are deeply connected to. So all of these things can get into the way. And also Gemini, the decision. So some truth is influencing a decision, but how is it influencing it? Maybe not necessarily what the decision is, when to execute it, how to execute it, the modus operandi, who with, the relevant dates, times, some of which are simply your dreams, your aspirations, wishful thinking, other which are given facts. So this is the wishful thinking sun in Pisces, the given facts, the moon and Virgo, and your soul, your emotional world actually, acknowledges it, adapts to it. It adapts the dream, it adapts the desire. So in this sense, it's really positive, but it's uncomfortable because this Mars T square, all that doesn't depend on you also has to be taken into consideration. And because we have such energetic planets here, this full moon is relevant both for the big picture and for both for the immediate solutions that we need in our lives. Another element that this full moon might bring, and this is where the moon in the sign of Virgo holds a quincunx to Chiron and Jupiter and Venus. These three planets in Aries are conjunct with each other, not exactly, not perfectly, but they do hold a conjunction. And if I'm not mistaken, Vesta is also in the neighborhood. Exactly, Vesta is here. So, a quincunx can play out either way. It is where we have to make sense of elements or areas of life which usually don't have any relation with each other. So this Chiron tells me that people who do provide a service, or who are healers, or who are, protectors, defenders, like military, like police, doctors, nurses, psychologists, therapists, astrologers, if you will, might find themselves busy and extremely overwhelmed at the time of this full moon, and not knowing exactly what to prioritize because something is going on. Now, this is also perfectly true on the world stage, because something is already going on. This full moon is our reaction to it. And this Venus Chiron Jupiter conjunction does represent big moves happening, either in courts of justice, so law, either politically. Why? Because Aries is the collective path forward, and kind of politicians determine that at the present moment. It can also represent humanitarian movements, efforts for the efforts of lending help or aid. So something has already begun in the world before this, or at the time of this new moon. Um, Another aspect which is very, very important is that the sun holds a sextile to Uranus. So this is also an element of surprise. This is also with, the Virgo full moons reveals to us something, but we all, regardless of what the situation is, regardless of how we need to adapt to it, readapt our own situation, what new problems or obstacles may arise, the sextile to Uranus allows us to tap into our ingenuity, to tap into the power of our soul, really, to tap into the power of our sheer life experience, our inner wisdom, our the inner voice basically, because when solutions don't exist or don't appear to exist, you know, in a very down to earth way, maybe the power of the spirit can come to our help, come to our aid. And another energy which just simply cannot be ignored is Saturn at this time. Enter this is where we are in the process of Saturn entering the sign of Pisces. Now, under a full moon like this, Virgo, we might be feeling this energy shift in a real physical way. And because Virgo is a physical sign, it is an earth sign, it rules our guts, our digestive tract, so we might be feeling a certain anxiety or a certain sense of big, big change. Um, and also this Saturn touching Pisces, it already activates, you know, the manifestation, the embodiment of the spirit, because that is what Pisces and Saturn together are truly all about. So we might be feeling our bodies, our physical selves in a state already of preparation to this. And, our inner world, our inner voice, our inner forces might already be sensing intuitively, pushing us into the mood, pushing us into the state, into the feeling of what this Saturn transit in Pisces is going to mean for us both individually and collectively, of course. So, this is also a rather prophetic energy where both within and without, or both the visible, the physical Virgo, and the invisible Pisces component of us are in a state of readiness to what is about to happen. And we cannot forget that Pluto is also an heretic and is grinding down on that very, very last degree of Capricorn. Very soon, also touching 0 degree of Aquarius, activating that great conjunction point where Saturn and Jupiter met in December 2020. And that basically opened up the new paradigm, and Pluto activating it makes us feel it, acknowledge that, even see it that much more clearly. And, it's a powerful mental activation, Pluto. Something that is new, ultimately, Aquarius, that is our future or is meant to us, becomes very, very clear to us in March. And this full moon also prepares us for that. And this is where in the past 2 years, 2020 and 2021, the future was a big mist, a big blur. Uranus made sure that nothing that we anticipate plays out that way. So that even drove our inner beings into a state of where, nah, I'm not even curious about the future because I know it's unpredictable. Now, on the other hand, it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer, especially our own input, whatever we're creating and whatever power we're having over it. And this March will definitely send us into that mode. So it will activate the higher mind when we have a lot figured out, and that's why our future vision is starting to get more and more clear, precise, focused, and extended. Um, and another element that I would like to speak about is that this moon holds a trine with Uranus. This is also extremely important because the element of surprise, as I said, can be a saving grace here. The T square to Mars comes with the disruption, but the trine to Uranus and the Sun sextile to Uranus, sometimes the disruption is all too positive. Sometimes the disruption means that, your past effort, well, it was all in vain because the universe hands down something to you on a silver tray where you don't have to finish your work. It can be also positive, and the Uranus and Moon trine does mean successful efforts. So a problem gets solved. There is a solution. The solution might be unusual, might be unexpected, might come with stress, might come with spur of the moment hasty decisions, and with, we must not forget, Mars squaring Neptune, disillusionment, knowing something for good. As in, this might be disillusionment in love, in a misaligned belief. We get out of victim mode. We are shocked back into operational mode. We get out of the daydream. We are kind of, energized, electrified to keep on striving, striding towards our future, even to fight for that. Jupiter in Aries, our sovereignty, and exactly at this time conjunct Venus, for our dream, the bigger dream, the larger dream. So yeah, this full moon has, a lot of surprises with it, and they're dual. Like they come in a package, both good and bad, if we want to see it in such a primitive and radical way. But kind of that's also Gemini, the dual. It comes with inconveniences, with delays, with busyness, and people working in the medical profession again, and those service givers are gonna find a very, very busy spur of the moment when they might be swept off their feet by workload or something unexpected that might happen. So this might also represent a moment of crisis in the world stage out there, but individually, this is where your life might find itself rearranged in a second, because this Uranus comes with the surprise. And then the quincunx. This is also about a wound. What does a wound do to you? Or, sometimes being a victim of a wound has certain karmic advantages to it, because someone has to come and heal that, and maybe that someone, Venus conjunct Jupiter, is an important ally for the future. But of course, this can play out in so very many different ways. Um, Another thing that I would like to mention is this Mercury in the sign of Pisces, where, as I said, dreams and a very intuitive, a very nonlinear way of understanding is much more advantaged than sheer down to earth logic, even if this Virgo energy and Mars in Gemini demands a good share of down to earth logic as well. But at this time, maybe our innermost feelings and our own way of understanding life and even collective reality is more truthful or more helpful, more valid guidance than anything else that we might have in our lives out there. But at the same time, Mercury is debilitated in the sign of Pisces. This does make us feel a little bit insecure and confused about the down to earth matters. Yet, Neptune, if we have trust in our hearts and we know and we see the energetic planets, Saturn, Pluto, and there's another asteroid in, planetoid, not asteroid, planetoid in Taurus Sedna, also energetic, which does make whatever is happening in our lives right now feel extremely, extremely fated. So, this concludes today's recording. I wish everyone, a very surprising full moon. Maybe so the most ingenious solutions to your problems might pop up at this time. So let us welcome the surprises in the way, shape, and form as they come. Thank you again for all the love, all the support. Until next time, bye.